Isaac Newton. In the year of 1642, on Christmas Day in a small English village called Woolsthorpe, a sickly baby was born. That child was Isaac Newton, who would later become one of the greatest minds in human history. He grew up shy and quiet, more interested in books and experiments than in people. At Cambridge University, he began asking questions about the universe that no one else could answer. In 1665, the Great Plague forced him back home, where he spent years in isolation. One day, as the story goes, an apple fell from a tree and Newton asked, "Why does it fall straight down and not sideways?" From this question, he developed the law of universal gravitation, showing that every object in the universe pulls on every other object. He proved that the same force pulling an apple down is the same force keeping the moon in orbit around the Earth. Newton also created the three laws of motion, rules that still guide how we understand cars, rockets, and even planets today. He didn't stop there. He built the first practical reflecting telescope, making distant stars clearer than ever before. He also discovered that white light is made up of all colors. In 1687, he published his legendary book Principia Mathematica, which became the foundation of modern physics. Despite his genius, Newton was secretive, often working alone and keeping many of his notes hidden. He once said, "If I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants." Newton's discoveries shaped not only science, but the future of technology, from space travel to engineering. He died in 1727, honored as a national hero, leaving behind a legacy that forever changed how we see the world. Albert Einstein. In the year of 1879, in a small town called Ulm in Germany, a baby was born who would change the way we see the universe. His name was Albert Einstein, a boy who spoke late and was thought to be slowly by some teachers. But deep inside, his mind was racing, asking questions no one else dared to ask. As a young man, he worked at a patent office in Switzerland, reading inventions while dreaming about the mysteries of time and space. In 1905, that he wrote papers that shocked the world, later called the Annus Mirabilis. One of these papers introduced the special theory of relativity, saying that time and space were not fixed, but could bend and stretch. Also, he showed that nothing can travel faster than light. His famous equation was E equal mc squared, revealed that mass and energy are the same thing. Also, this equation opening the door to nuclear weapons. At first, many scientists doubted him, but in 1919, during a solar eclipse, his predictions about light bending around the sun were proven true. Overnight, Einstein became a global celebrity and the face of modern science. Yet behind the fame, he was still a humble man with wild hair and gentle smile. When Nazi Germany rose to power, Einstein, a Jew, fled to America, leaving behind his homeland. He later urged the US to develop nuclear research, fearing Hitler might get the bomb first. But after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein regretted his role and becoming a voice for peace. He once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge," a line that still inspires dreamers today. Albert Einstein was not just a scientist, he was a man who reshaped reality. Galileo Galilei. In 1564, in Pisa, Italy, a boy named Galileo was born into a world where the church controlled knowledge. From a young age, he was fascinated by how the world worked. At the University of Pisa, he studied mathematics and physics and soon began challenging old ideas. People believed that heavy objects fell faster than light ones, but Galileo climbed the Leaning Tower of Pisa and proved them wrong. He showed that all objects fall at the same rate, no matter their weight. Later, he built one of the first telescopes strong enough to see the heavens like never before. Through his lens, Galileo saw craters on the moon, moons orbiting Jupiter, and stars too many to count. His discoveries proved that Earth was not the center of the universe, but instead moved around the sun. This idea, called heliocentrism, went against the teachings of a church who believed that Earth was fixed at the center. In 1610, he published his findings, and the world of science was shaken to its core. Some called him a genius, others called him a heretic. In 1633, he was put on trial by the Catholic Inquisition for defying the church. Galileo was ordered to deny that the Earth moved, or he would face death. Then he whispered the famous words, "And yet it moves." He spent the rest of his life under house arrest, continuing to write in secret. Galileo never gave up his search for truth, even in silence and confinement. Today, he is remembered as a father of modern science, the man who dared to look beyond what was forbidden. Marie Curie. In 1867, in Warsaw, Poland, a little girl named Maria Sklodowska was born into a poor but educated family. From childhood, she dreamed of learning, but as a woman in Poland, universities were closed to her. Refusing to give up, she studied in secret in underground classes for women. At last, she moved to Paris, where she changed her name to Marie and studied at the Sorbonne. Life was hard. She lived in a tiny room, often fainting from hunger, but her passion for science kept her alive. In Paris, she met Pierre Curie, a brilliant scientist, and soon they became partners in both love and research. Together, they began studying strange invisible rays discovered by Henry Becquerel. In 1898, after years of crushing rocks and endless experiments, they discovered two new elements, polonium and radium. Marie was the first person to ever use the word radioactivity. The world was stunned by her discovery, which opened the door to nuclear science and medicine. In 1903, she became the first woman ever to win a Nobel Prize, shared with Pierre and Becquerel. After Pierre's tragic death in 1906, Marie continued her work alone, stronger than ever. In 1911, she made history again, winning a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry. No one before her and very few after ever achieved this double honor. But the work that gave her fame also gave her pain. Constant exposure to radiation weakened her body. During World War I, she designed mobile X-ray units and drove them to battlefields to save soldiers' lives. In 1934, she died from radiation sickness, a silent sacrifice to science. Nikola Tesla. In 1856, in Semilian, a small village in modern-day Croatia, a boy named Nikola Tesla was born during a lightning storm. From childhood, he was fascinated by electricity, often experimenting with sparks and magnets. Tesla claimed to see visions in his mind, machines working perfectly before building them. He studied engineering and physics in Europe, but often clashed with professors who didn't understand his ideas. In 1884, he moved to America. There, he met Thomas Edison, the king of electricity, but soon they became rivals over electricity's future. Edison promoted direct current, while Tesla invented alternating current, which could travel long distances. His AC system eventually powered cities around the world, lighting up homes and factories. Tesla also invented the Tesla coil, wireless power ideas, and early radio experiments. He envisioned free energy, wireless communication, and even electricity from the air, which ideas most called impossible. In 1893, his AC system was displayed at the World's Fair, dazzling the world with electric light. Tesla lived in New York hotels, often working day and night on experiments no one else understood. Despite his genius, he died poor and lonely in 1943. Many believe modern technology, radio, electricity, X-rays is built on Tesla's ideas. Tesla warned humanity about the dangers of unlimited power and dreamed of peaceful uses of electricity. He often said, "The present is theirs, the future for which I really worked is mine." Today, Tesla is remembered as the ultimate dreamer, a genius too far ahead of his time. Charles Darwin. In 1809, in Shrewsbury, England, Charles Darwin was born into a wealthy family, but he was always curious about nature. As a boy, he collected beetles, studied plants, and questioned why species looked the way they did. He studied medicine and theology, but his heart was in observing the nature world. In 1831, he joined the HMS Beagle as a young naturalist on a 5-year voyage around the world. He visited South America, the Galapagos Islands, and other remote places studying animals and plants. Darwin noticed that finches on different islands had different beaks, perfectly suited to their food. Slowly, he began to understand that species change over time to survive in their environment. He called this process natural selection. For decades, Darwin studied specimens, wrote notes, and debated his ideas with fellow scientists. In 1859, he published On the Origin of Species, explaining evolution of the world. His theory shocked society, challenging centuries of religious beliefs about creation. Many criticized him, yet his careful research and evidence were undeniable. He spent years studying orchids, earthworms, and other creatures. Despite health problems, he continued writing and experimenting until the end of his life. He once said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." Today, Charles Darwin is remembered as a father of evolution, a genius whose curiosity changed the world forever. Stephen Hawking. In 1942, in Oxford, England, a baby boy named Stephen Hawking was born during the 300th anniversary of Galileo's death. As a child, he was curious about the universe, asking questions about time, space, and the stars. He was brilliant in math and physics, but doctors gave him shocking news in his 20s. He had ALS, a disease that slowly paralyzed him. Despite the grim prognosis, Hawking refused to give up his dream of understanding the universe. He continued studying at Cambridge, where he developed ideas that would revolutionize science. Hawking proposed that black holes are not completely black. His work combined quantum physics and general relativity. Over decades, he wrote books, including A Brief History of Time, making complex science understandable for everyone. Hawking's body was failing, but his mind remained razor sharp, using a speech device to communicate with the world. He traveled globally, giving lectures and inspiring millions with his courage and brilliance. Hawking also explored theories about the time travel, the Big Bang, and the origins of the universe. He once joked intelligence is the ability to adapt to change, showing his resilience in life and science. Despite living with ALS for more than 50 years, far beyond medical expectations, he never stopped dreaming. Stephen Hawking passed in 2018, also is remembered as a man who defied limits. Richard Feynman. In 1918, in New York City, a boy named Richard Feynman was born into a family that encouraged curiosity and questions. From childhood, he loved taking things apart to see how they worked, for example, clocks, radios, and machines. At Princeton, Feynman studied physics, quickly showing his genius for problem solving. During World War II, he joined the Manhattan Project, helping develop the atomic bomb. Despite the gravity of the project, he remained curious and playful. After the war, Feynman focused on quantum mechanics, unlocking mysteries about how particles behave. He developed the Feynman diagrams, which is a way to visualize particle interactions, now used worldwide. Feynman received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1965 for his contributions to quantum electrodynamics. But he wasn't just a brilliant scientist, he loved teaching, storytelling, and making science accessible. He wrote books like Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, that became bestsellers at that time. Feynman often said, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Richard Feynman passed in 1988, leaving behind a legacy of brilliance, fun, and fearless curiosity.